Hey, we are live on Facebook. Hello, everyone. We're just going to take a couple of minutes to let a few more people join in, and then we'll get started. Feel free to join in on the Zoom call if you'd like. We'll have a bit of a discussion after the story time, if anyone wants to join the Zoom call instead of on Facebook Live. The link is in the Facebook event. Welcome to those who are joining. We're going to get started in just a minute. Sorry, folks, we're just having a moment getting our reader connecting. So just give us one more minute and then we'll get started with the story. And I know I see people joining as well, so we'll just wait another minute, please. Thanks for your patience. And I might invite one of the Compass staff who are here to possibly read the story if needed, at least the first one, because it looks like we might be having trouble connecting with the person who is going to read. Norma, I see your hand up. That's great. Thank you. So I may call on you in a moment to do that. Okay, why don't we get started? We'll start with one of the stories and then we can, hopefully our guest who's going to read the story will be able to join us. So I'm just going to share my screen here, and then Norma, if you would like to read, that would be wonderful. So the first story is called Mixed Me.
Yes, welcome everyone. This is a story called Mixed Me. Taye Diggs is the author and it's illustrated by Shane W. Evans. Hey now, they call me Mixed Up Mike. My hair is like, wow, super crazy, fresh, cool man, yeah. I like to go fast. No one can stop me as the wind combs through my zigzag curly do. What's happening, Captain? My daddy says. Hi, I say. Bye, I say. Hey, sweet boy, sweet pie, honey bun, my mom coos. She's my one and only, never lonely. Hi, I say. Bye, I say. Sometimes when we're together, people stare at whatever. Your mom and dad don't match, they say, and scratch their heads. See, my dad's a deep brown and my mom's rich cream and honey. Then people see me, they look at us funny. My mom and dad say, I'm a blend of dark and light. We mixed you perfectly and got you just right. There are so many flavors to savor and taste. Why pick only one color or face? Why pick one race? Some kids at school want me to choose who I cruise with. I'm down for fun with everyone. Why pick one race? I'm a combo plate. Garden salad, rice and beans. Tasting great, but wait. And if they care too much about my hair too much, that's not straight enough. I say, it's my hair, don't touch. Oh, that it's not, sorry. If you don't get it, then you don't get it. I'm doing my thing, so don't forget it. I say it. I'm a beautiful blend of dark and light. I was mixed up perfectly, and I'm just right. They call me Mixed Up Mike, but that name should be fixed. I'm not mixed up. I just happen to be mixed. Mixed me.
Thank you, Norma. We have Victoria. Sorry about that technical difficulty. I'm glad you're here.
Hi, sorry. Thank you.
Do you want to read our second story, I'm Perfectly Designed?
Yeah, I can read that one.
Awesome. Just give me 1 second.
Are you putting it up on the screen?
I will, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. On my screen. There we go. Okay, take it away. Whoops. Present, not share. There we go.
Okay, so I am perfectly designed. Do you want me to read the preface as well?
It's up to you.
Okay. So this book is dedicated to every child and adult who has ever felt different or not good enough. You can have the life you want and deserve because you have the tools to attain it. You are perfectly designed, and please never forget that. First there was you, Dad, then there was me. That's right, now there is us. I'm sorry, I missed it. And now there is us. That's right, now there is us. When you first saw me, you said, he's perfectly designed from his head to his toes. And I meant every word, still do. When I was a baby, I looked just like you, only I had no hair and you had lots. Now it's the opposite. So true. Remember that? I had such a big baby head. Indeed, but your big baby head was perfectly designed for you. Sorry, I keep forgetting the other page.
Sorry, my computer's acting funny right now. Can you still see it?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry. It's this book, the writing is so light that I don't see some of it. The first thing I remember is being carried on your shoulders while you walked me over all over the city. Remember that? I had such a big baby head. Indeed, but your big baby head was perfectly designed for you. When I was real little, I thought you could touch the moon. Remember that? We'd sit on the roof and reach for it. One day you'll be big enough to reach it yourself, but until then, it's perfectly fine to ask for help. Remember when we went as Syrup and Waffles for Halloween, Dad? Huh, I do. That was awesome. I wonder what will be this year. When I run in the park, jump in the park, climb trees in the park, and pretend I am a statue in the park, you remind me I am perfectly designed to explore the world. You are, and you always will be. Sometimes, Dad, when I get mad or sad or confused, you wrap me in your arms. I like that. Me too. And I remind you that you are perfectly designed and wonderful no matter what you're feeling. Dad, when I grow up and leave home, will you miss me? Yes, very much. Will you go into my room and play with my race cars and stuffed animals? You know I will. Will you sit on the fire escape and feed the pigeons like we do in the summer? The pigeons and the sparrows. Will you remember our favorite movies? I will, and I'll invent some new ones too. Dad, will you always think of me? Always. You know what, Dad? What? I will always remember walking through the city and sitting on your shoulders. And maybe when you're older and I'm taller, I can carry you on mine because we are perfectly designed for each other. That's right. Dear reader, it's always been, sorry, one second here. It's always been a dream of mine to write a story inspired by the many lessons my father has taught me. When I was growing up, anytime I felt fear or uncertainty, my father would remind me that I was perfectly designed. Knowing that at an early age really instilled self-love and confidence in me, which had been hard to find on my own. Now that I'm older, it's easier to walk with my head held up proudly. My father and I felt it was only right to give this message to you. We want readers to never forget that just being your natural self is perfect. It's beautiful in every sense. We know how hard it is to think otherwise, but you can't stop telling yourself this until you feel it. Like everything in life, it takes some time. But with repetition, you will learn to walk with your head held higher than the Eiffel Tower. Jason Brown. That's exactly right.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
So yeah, so because we didn't get to introduce you at the beginning, Victoria, you're on the board of the Community Race Relations Committee, is that right?
Yes, I'm the vice chair. Yeah.
So yeah, this Storytime is a partnership between Community Race Relations, New Canadian Centre, and Compass Early Learning and Care for any of you new who are joining us today. And we always just like to share a couple of stories and then have a bit of a discussion about some of the ideas that come up in the stories. So does anyone want to start off the conversation with anything that these stories made them think about?
So was the mixed me, was that story already read earlier? Okay.
It was, yeah. We had a guest reader. Norma helped us.
Thanks. So I have some input on that because I'm mixed. So when I moved to Peterborough from South Africa, I was 14. And a lot about that story actually spoke to me because especially the part where he talks about that people get confused and are like, it doesn't make sense. So I got that a lot because I'm from Africa, but most people look at me and they're like, well, you don't look like you're from Africa. That was the response that I always got. Or, you know, they were confused because they didn't know if I was Black or if I was, you know, what I was. And they would say like, you know, well, I thought you were Black, but your hair doesn't look like you're Black. And so those were a lot of things that I actually experienced firsthand as a mixed person myself. So I definitely understood where that person was coming from.
Yeah, I remember, Victoria, when you and I had a conversation about the terminology colored people. And I, you know, have to say thank you because you gave me a whole different perspective on that. And maybe you'd like to just kind of share that with folks because, I mean, generally speaking, in North America, it's not seen as being correct to call someone a colored person, but there's a different take on that from South Africa, I believe.
Yeah, there is, and it's actually it's crazy because I'm a proud Cape colored. That's what I call myself. That's how I identify 100%. And coming to North America, it was so difficult because people want to put you in a box, right? And people want to say like, oh, exactly what I was saying before. People don't know. They're like, well, you don't look Black, but you must be Black because you're from Africa. And it was like, well, no, you know, I'm not. This is what I am. And people over here don't see that. They don't understand it. And it's the word colored is almost like taboo, right? Like it's nobody wants to say it. But for me, like that's who I am through and through. Like I'm really colored.
Like I'm really curious, Victoria, about the people who influenced you in your life as a young person and how you, because you sound very strong on the mixed me story, really does for me resonate the strength that an individual has when they're very young, and there are experiences that they have along the way that could either alter it both ways. So I'm very curious
about how it
about the influences that you had and that you are seemingly very strong about who you are and you know where you've come from. And so who were the people along your way in life? So where did all of this come from?
Yeah, so you know it's crazy because I think when I moved to Canada and I started experiencing that, I became more aware. Like I wasn't really aware of what I was. I was just who I was. I mean, I grew up in a colored community. I was never a minority when I was in South Africa, and then I came here and all of a sudden I was. And I think that made me look deeper into who I was and try to help me like truly discover who I was as a person and how I was going to make that fit into this new life that I had been put in. Because the first few years of my life, so I was 14, and the first few years were very frustrating. It was like this constant battle of I'm not going to change. This is who I am. Like, you know, where I don't, this is who I am. Like, I'm not going to say paper towel. I'm saying roller towel because that's how we say it where I come from, like just things like that. And then I realized, like, obviously I have to adapt, but that doesn't mean that I have to change who I am. And so I think I immersed myself in like history, just learning about my country, who I was, and then also just making sure that I stayed close to my roots, like with my family, with my culture, with my food, everything. I didn't want to lose that part of me, but I knew that I was like in a new environment and I needed to adapt in some way.
What I really liked about both of the stories, I think that probably echoes what your experience is like that in order for us to understand our identities, there's so much work that we have to do, but also we have to be surrounded in a culture of care. And so to have people who support our learning, and I really saw that in both stories. In Mixed Meat, it was a young girl who's so confident and so sure of herself. And that obviously comes from being surrounded by a culture of care. And I think that as a childcare organization, we think a lot about what that culture of care looks like. And so in the other book, I'm Perfectly Designed, I think the father is just so demonstrative of that loving, caring, underlying kind of source of strength for that child.
And we have such a huge responsibility here for the care and learning of the young ones who come to us. That just frightens me, but excites me all in one. It makes me want to think with people about how do we continue to dive into people's culture and the feeling of, like, I remember Yun Fan saying the hopes and dreams that families have for their children. I mean, we want that to be so represented in our classrooms, in their documentation and in their journals. Such a huge responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, sorry, just to go on that a little bit, representation is huge, right? As kids, I mean, some people don't like to hear this, but it's so true. When you're as a mixed child, or as a person of color, or an indigenous person, or an Asian person, any marginalized person, you grow up, you watch TV shows and you watch, these success stories, so to speak, of like Disney princesses or whatever. And as a child, you can't relate to that if you don't look like that person. And they don't realize it immediately, but it's subconsciously it is there because it's unrelatable to them, right? And it's not just about the color, it's not just about how they look, but it's about the experiences too, and the culture and the life and the struggles. That's why, obviously the whole Disney princess controversy has been such a big deal. Yes. But it is important. It's important that people feel represented no matter, where they come from, how they look, or how they identify.
Yeah, that's a very important piece. And we just finished doing some training this morning with Compass staff, and you brought up a couple of good points, and I put it in the chat, a microaggression, after you said, people are saying, well, you don't look Black, or you don't look African, or whatever, right? And that's a microaggression. I mean, because it's kind of invalidating of who you are, right? And then the other aspect around portrayal in TV, again, this was, we talk about how we're socialized, and regardless of of your ethnic background or the color of your skin or any of that, we're all receiving those same messages. So if Disney's showing us all white princesses, you're leaving out portions of the population who are looking at that and saying, well, that can't be me.
Yeah.
Right? If there's no representation there, and hence the backlash, and not only the representation, I think, some of that backlash for Disney, if you look at some of the earlier productions with an anti-oppressive, anti-racist lens, you can see even the portrayals of the characters, if they are Black, Indigenous, people of color, or whatever, the way that they're portrayed is often not
Mhm.
in a good way, right?
Mhm.
So there's representation and then there's appropriate representation, I would say.
No, 100%.
There's a question that came into the chat. There's a preschool room that's joined us today. So their camera's off because of privacy issues for the children, but they said, the first story described and compared skin color to food. It has stirred up some discussion at our program. This isn't the first time we've noticed this in storybooks. Any thoughts from anyone?
I, did this one have food in it too?
Yeah, I think it was probably about caramel or mocha or something like that. Honey.
I don't know. I don't think this was the one, but there was another book that we had reviewed for the story time. And the whole thing was about comparing skin color to food. And it made me uncomfortable. Like I read it and I mean, I get it. It's for children, but I'm not sure if that's the appropriate way to kind of go about it. So yeah, that's a broader discussion for sure. But what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and so here's the thing, like, you know, growing up in South Africa too as a child, I mean, we were so exposed to racism and we were almost numbed, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because we were so, like, we were just programmed to feel like certain things was acceptable when it really wasn't. And it didn't, only when I became older and I started, you know, obviously understanding and learning about racism, I started remembering like, oh my gosh, that was terrible. Like, why did we even think of that when we were kids? And so when we were kids, we used that analogy. Like my brother used to always call me Caramilk, Cadbury Caramilk, and he was a Milky Way bar. True story, we had these conversations, we compared one another because my brother is very fair skin and I'm like medium darker, and so he always said I was a Caramilk and I always say, yeah, and you're a Milky Bar, not like in a mean way, but that's something that we just, for some reason or the other, we talked about it. I personally don't, I mean, I don't know, I don't get offended by it if it's in a positive, if it's being spoken of in a positive light. I mean, everyone loves chocolate. I love chocolate. I a lot of people love to celebrate it. You know what I mean? People of color like to celebrate the color of their skin. It makes us feel good. It makes us feel empowered. So, people of color themselves use this to describe themselves, right? Like, if it's coming from a positive place, then I don't feel uncomfortable. I would feel uncomfortable if like a white person said that to me. You know what I'm saying?
Or if
like,
you didn't have the relationship. If you don't have the relationship, right? Like it sounds like that was a terms of endearment for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But if you don't have the relationship, we don't have the right to call.
Yeah.
It's like us even calling children, you know, by not their first name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, like honey pie and all of that. Like children will turn around. I love it when children say, my name is. And I'm like, yeah,
exactly.
You're right. Right. Awesome.
But you're right. So like speaking of it for yourself and using it to empower yourself, that's one thing. But feeling like you have the right to go and call people like mocha or like, you know, Caramilk or Milky Bar, like we can't be doing stuff like that.
It's interesting though, because as you're talking, I had a light bulb moment there in this whole connection with food, right? Because oftentimes when folks of color were seen as being too assimilated, food was used, right? So things like Indigenous people being called an apple, right? Red on the outside, white on the inside. And I think there's I don't know, for Black people, what, coconut. So maybe that's where my initial reaction to the
or mulatto. I think mulatto was one too, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So it's just like I said, so like I said, I'm most familiar with the red apple concept kind of thing, right? Because of indigenous
Mhm.
people, but we used to call it like the politics of food, right? So if
Mhm.
you're a coconut, you're black on the outside, but you're white on the inside, or
Mhm.
banana for Asian people.
Yeah.
I think that's where, my initial kind of gut reaction to having skin color,
Mhm.
described in terms of food, and it could have been subconscious, because until just when you were talking did I make that connection.
Mhm.
Here's a
No, but you're right.
perspective.
Yeah.
Here's a perspective I'm thinking about. Sometimes I think that we think that children aren't competent and capable enough to understand the story, so we have to kind of
Mhm.
link it with the food.
Yeah.
It's just a thought.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not necessary.
Definitely could have some good conversation around that one.
Mhm.
That's a really interesting idea of how.
And
Go ahead.
this is a good example of where, we're always learning. Like,
Yes.
even as I mentioned before, like for myself, I mean, I never realized there are so many things that I never realized growing up that I, as a person of color myself, was programmed or desensitized with. You know what I mean? Like, I would say things, or I would think of things, and I didn't understand where it actually came from and what it meant. And that's why it's important for everyone to understand that it's okay. The problem is, the problem arises when you're not willing to learn, and you're not willing to understand, and you're not willing to accept it for what it is. So you're right, Angela. I mean, I didn't think of where it actually came from, the color thing with food. But yeah.
Light bulb moment for the day.
Mm-hmm.
I love these conversations. We should read kids stories more often, because they bring up all kinds of ideas and concepts for some great discussions, for starting great discussions.
Yeah, they sure do. Does anyone have any last questions? We usually try to keep these to half an hour so people can feel like they can do it, participate on their lunch break.
Yep.
Any last questions from anyone or comments?
Well, stay tuned for more stories.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll see you
Bye,
all.
everybody.
Thanks, Victoria.
Thanks, Angela. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye. Same link, same
Bye,
time.
everybody. Bye, Diane.
Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.